live Vegas studios here in the downtown heart of Las Vegas. This is Full Tilt Vegas. I have a special guest, Brett, for the second time. Brett, you want to say hello?
Hello, everybody. Happy back, Richard. You to invite to be my third time on the show. We did the first episode, if you will, Con, and then we did the follow up just a couple of weeks ago around Halloween, and here we are. So it's exciting.
Okay, we're going to go into what I do and what Brett does, which is he's sports betting, and I'm going to talk about my book and some other things about anything gambling. Anybody got any questions about sports betting or slot machines, blackjack, poker, roulette, anything, you can call in. You can get my book on Amazon. You can Kindle it, Google Play, you can get it on your phone. It's been selling a lot. I've been selling a lot of books. I get my quarterlies, and I people in Canada, London, all over they're buying this book because it's really quick. There's 88 pages, but I get right to what you need to know, and I actually devise a book for beginning, and if you read it through, you can become an expert at the end. If you want to memorize what I have in the book, percentage ratios, there's all kinds of statistics about the casino, what their ratios are and what yours are, so you can see the difference. But you can cut those ratios and percentages down if you follow what I have in the book. So, but yeah, it's selling pretty good. I do know a lot of people Kindle it, Google Play, so you can do that too. So what I'm going to do right now, let's see, what should I start out with? There's so many things I'm thinking as has been going through my head lately. Let's start out with Brett. I'm gonna ask him this question. What was your team? Because I know you grew up here, right?
Yes.
I want to know what your team was before the Raiders got here.
I've always been a Giant fan, and I still am, because basically my whole family comes from New York, so I was raised a Giant Yankee fan from the very get-go. I didn't really have an option, and by the time I actually did have an option, I didn't want to venture too far from that. So it's always been heavy Giants, heavy Yankees. I do enjoy basketball, but I'm not as big of a fan of the Knicks and the Rangers. I am a fan of them, but the Yankees and the Giants were the two first teams I was really exposed to, and that's also a big reason why football and basketball were two of the sports that I really kind of latched onto before anything else as well. So even though I myself have the humble Las Vegas origins, my family very much is deeply rooted in New York, and actually that's really only half my family. The other half comes from Northern California, so they're all fans of Bay Area market teams. But to me, it was just such an early impression from my dad's side of the family with the Giants and the Yankees. That's kind of where I ventured into my fandom, and it's what my fandom really was the inspiring source and the driving factor to enter this line of work.
Well, what are your thoughts on the Raiders coming here and them getting their own stadium?
Well, it was definitely something that was going to happen. Inevitable. I think for a long time it was hard to accept because the stigma surrounding sports gambling made everyone think that it just wouldn't work out here. We just like to associate one little negative to the greater picture, and sometimes we overinflate it, sometimes we exaggerate it. When you cut all that down, you look at the revenue and you look at the beneficial aspects of bringing pro sports here, it was a no-brainer. Now the team itself, being the Raiders, you have a historical franchise, a strong fan base, who have been in California, whether it be Los Angeles or Oakland. They come over, and it's easy traction to go straight from California into Vegas. So we thought that may be a little lapse early on in 2016 when it was first announced that the Raiders would come here. That hasn't been an issue at all. The fan base has flowed right on over. They continue to come out each week. Allegiant's doing great numbers. The location of the stadium was a little bit controversial, but it was something that I think that with each passing week, now that we have fans in the stadium, we're kind of getting those kinks out. By you get to 2022, 2 full seasons under your belt, I think once you get to that point, you'll really start to smooth out the operation a bit. So everything you're seeing now this year, it's not the first year. Last year technically was, but 2021 is the first year where you actually get fans, and I think now we're really seeing what we could bring to the table. And we already were seeing that with the Golden Knights anyway. So I think bringing a popular team like the Raiders, a historic team like the Raiders, to a team that really needed a pro sport, or city that really needed a pro sports existence, that was the right way to go.
Yeah, it had to be at least probably 30 years ago, even though I look 29. I bought it was called the Orange Show, National Orange Show in San Bernardino.
Yeah.
And my cousin Victor Chaparro, how you doing, Vic? If you're watching, I bought some pins, and they were Raider pins, and I bought 3 of them. and one of them is now is really rare.
Yeah.
He's got offered $200 for that little pin. I paid $5 for that pin, and if I would have known that, I would have bought more of those pins.
And Raiders, with the way they collect knickknacks and collectibles, all in a way, all ball clubs have that type of fandom, but the Raiders really have it. We know about the Black Hole, the Silver and Black Faithful, the Raider Nation. It's real, and it's really something that is making its presence known out here in the Las Vegas Valley early on.
Yeah, I like the because Vader, he's the bad guy you love to hate.
Oh, absolutely.
The dude that stands out there with the Vader.
Yeah,
I thought it was neat.
That's essentially what started it back in the mid late 70s. Someone in a Darth Vader costume was walking around that section, and that's how it got the nickname the Black Hole. And that was at a time with John Madden, Ken Stabler, and so many other greats going into the early 80s with so many Hall of Famers on that team. It kind of caught on traction. And, of course, the rivalries with the Shula Dolphins and the Chuck Noll Steelers and so on and so forth, the Kansas City Chiefs. It was just one of those things that was going to blow up, and here we are decades later, and the Black Hole is considered one of the greatest fan bases in all of sports, let alone professional football.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, if anybody's got any questions, you want to call in, ask Brett about any of your favorite teams that you have there at your home, you can call and ask any question that you want. I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about, I guess I could say craps, because I was doing some stuff early today, all days from 9 in the morning. I got here, had to put some stuff away, and so I've been real busy.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a full plan of what I was going to talk about. You got a caller?
That's where callers come in handy.
You got a call? Yeah, they got a caller. Who's this?
Hi.
Can you go ahead? Who is this? Aviana?
Hi. Oh, sure.
Sure.
We'll roll with that.
It's Aviana. She's my daughter. She was on episode 23. She's going to call, I guess, talk to Brett about her football team. Aviana, go ahead and ask the question to Brett.
Yeah, so I just downloaded FanDuel, and I'm a novice, and it's fun. My husband does it with a bunch of his work colleagues. So where would you recommend I go to that's free, that I could go to kind of find out some information on to place my picks, like recommendations for a novice?
Absolutely. And ultimately, you're actually already on the right track. Books like FanDuel, DraftKings, those are a great way to start. And the reason why those have caught on a lot of mainstream traction in recent years is because of their availability, because of their accessibility. It's easy to download on your app. However, if you want to go to exclusive sports books that are actually connected with an on-the-spot property, a brick-and-mortar location, if you will, you could always go to numerous apps, from the Westgate to the Wynn to the MGM, to any other casino property you have in town. Now, the way those work is often you have to go onto the property and create an account. So that kind of has a hand-in-hand with the on-the-scene element. If you're strictly planning to just do it on a mobile type of basis, you're already on the right track going through FanDuel. You could go through DraftKings, Barstool even. Barstool Sports now has their own sports book. Fox Sports with Fox Bet. There's so many ways to where you don't even have to get off your couch. So I would definitely recommend doing what you're doing. Peruse through FanDuel, check out DraftKings, and go off of basically what you would do for any other mobile app when you're making a choice of just how you feel comfortable and what feels easiest to use to you. Go off the layout, the visuals, the menu, every little tab, whatever app you like the best that makes you think that I could get on here and easily make a bet. That's the route you want to go to. The actual odds themselves you see, that's all secondary, because that's going to change depending on which book. So the more books you use, and we talked about this last week or a couple of weeks ago, Richard, with your line shopping, the more books you'll use, the more opportunities you'll have to make a play. So that's the one negative about cutting yourself down to one book. You don't see all the lines out there. But a lot of times if you only use one book, like if you were to use a FanDuel or a DraftKings, it's a little easier to get started because you know how to work the app and you don't have to worry about any of the logistics of any of the other sports books.
Okay, that's good information. And so now that the Raiders are in town, have you seen any, any locals maybe switch to the Raiders? Or, I don't think you guys had a previous football team there, but what's your take on that as far as gaining popularity or having a team in Vegas now.
It caught on like wildfire, definitely. And, it was something that we thought was going to happen anyway, and kind of like what Richard and I just discussed. The fact you're bringing over a team like the Raiders, who had such a strong fan base in Las Vegas anyway, you bring them out here, it's easy to get the California following or just the fan base that was already here from the get-go, natives like myself, locals like myself, who have always liked the Raiders, whether they were in Oakland or L.A. So the popularity was there instantly. Once you got the new stadium going, everyone knew that would be just an event in itself. Even if you don't like the Raiders, having NFL action, especially on a big-time game like on a Sunday night we saw last week, Monday night like we saw in the season opener, having the Raiders in those spots in a brand new state-of-the-art type of venue, it just does great things for the town, and it does great things for the town for even people who aren't in it, because it attracts people who are watching on television, and it makes the people who are living here that much more enthusiastic about what's going on. There is a strict divide about how locals carry themselves throughout Las Vegas and how tourists carry themselves throughout Las Vegas, but teams like the Raiders are able to kind of bridge that gap. When we got it with the Knights, who are always kind of going to have a special spot in town because they're an original Vegas team, but the Raiders have actually been welcomed pretty warmly, and even though they're not an original expansion team, the fact that they could have now their own spot of history in Las Vegas after being around for such a long period of time, I think that kind of instills a sense of pride. So even though there's been some hiccups, there's been some controversy, people have warmly embraced the team. For the most part, the team has done a great job out here. Don't let the negative headlines fool you too much. A lot of these players are already doing great things with charities and local media. So it's just going to continue to get better and better, and it's going to be more solidified. So I think as far as the popularity, it's there, and I think as far as the positive side effects, they're going to continue to show too. We're going to have some bump in the roads early on, but that's inevitable no matter where you go. It could be in the Midwest. It could be in the Pacific Northwest. It could be in the South. That's just us being a growing city, and sometimes you're going to have those things. It's not excusable, but I also suggest that you have to look at the positives too.
Nice, cool. So one last question. My husband is from Chicago, huge Bears fan.
Yep.
What do you think of the Bears this season?
The Bears are just a work in progress. The Bears are more so planting the seeds of what they could be down the road. The Bears basically just have to look in the mirror in the offseason and address if they want to continue with Matt Nagy. It's become clear that they have a quarterback now for the future. Justin Fields has the talent. He has all the skills. And when he actually has the opportunity to go out there and play and really given the keys to the offense and is given that kind of control to use his dual threat ability, to use his arms, his legs, and the run-pass option, while also dropping back in a more traditional sense, when you could have that kind of variation, that kind of balance, you're going to be a successful offense, and this is a team that has been very stagnant on offense. And given the fact that Matt Nagy is the head coach, is an offensive mind, that's really inexcusable. Now, if they rally, if they win out down the road, as we enter, the holiday type of season where the regular season wraps up, maybe he could salvage it and save his job. But it's very much a ticking clock. So the question with the Bears right now is going to be who's going to be leading the way at the head coaching position, because all the questions about the quarterback position are being answered after each week. So it's one of those things where right now your husband may not have a very optimistic outlook, if you will, but in a few years he may be much happier given some of the young talent, especially with who they have at quarterback.
Well, I feel like they're always a work in progress.
That's
so,
fair.
on that note.
And that's fair. And that's the one plus about bringing in this quarterback. A big reason why they've been that work in progress so long is because they just haven't been able to hit it at that position. Mitchell Trubisky wasn't the answer. It looks like Justin Fields will be. So your husband, along with so many Chicago diehards, are probably thinking the same thing. Hopefully that finally changes for their sake with Justin Fields.
Great. Well, I love your energy. Thank you so much for all the information. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you for the questions. I appreciate you calling in. You take care. And best of luck to the Raiders and the Bears.
Not Bears.
Thank you.
You got it.
All right. Bye.
All right, Mia. Anyway, that was my daughter. She was on episode 23. You can go see that. It was called Girls Night Out, and her friend Marissa came. So you can go ahead and see that episode. But my daughter is going to be here, I think, in March on one of their work work networking.
Yep.
But last time we were
good
here,
place to come.
Yeah, we were here about probably 3 years ago, and I was on the table and I was yelling out ratios and percentages when they're throwing the dice.
Oh wow!
And I was yelling out because all these guys were probably in their they're probably 20s. And they were from the same my daughter's thing, and there was other venues there from people from all over the world that come and do their networking there. So I was yelling at these percentages. Yeah, come on, we need 8.33% to throw that number. And some of them were saying, what are you talking about? That's the percentage. On a set of dice, it's 16.7% to throw a 7. Any 7, it's actually 2.773333 to throw 1 7. There's 6 of those. You times it by 6, it's 16.67%. So 7 comes up the most. The lowest is 2.78, which would be a 12 or aces. So the lower it is, the harder the number is to come up. The higher it is, the more it would come up, like 7. But I was yelling all these numbers out, and even the box man was telling me, another guy, I think he's got it beat by figures. I said, no, it's math. It's all math. This is a game of mathematics. And the guy asked me he wanted my card, so I gave him my card on my book.
Let me ask you this, Richard. Do you think, because this is actually something that happens in sports gambling, because when you think of sports, maybe with statistics and info like that, you run into some math and some analytical thing. But a lot of your just traditional run-of-the-mill sports fan, maybe not the biggest math type of person in the world. So for someone who's entering the gambling sphere, whether it be any kind of table-oriented game, anything with cards, anything with craps, do you think the actual emphasis on math and numbers sometimes scares people away because they think it's something that should be a fun activity, a leisure activity? Often that's based off of, what you win and your return in the end, and that could be that could be a variable. But either way, a lot of times when people think math, they think not fun, I'm staying away, I don't like numbers, they scare me. Do you think that's an issue as someone in the field?
Yeah, I hear that a lot, especially on craps. Craps is actually, you can actually learn craps. You can go to my book, and I teach you everything from beginning to end. You got to remember, when people see the full table, usually it's 8 people per side. So if the table is really kind of, you can't get in.
Like too crowded?
Yeah, too crowded. It's 8 per side. So one time I was at the MGM, and there was 7 people on my side, or this side. Was 8, but the table's on fire, so I wanted to get in, so I threw my card down because I had a marker there, and the girl told me, no, we haven't. I says, no, it's 8 per side, and so I knew the box man. I said, oh, wow, hey, Stardust. So he goes, he knew my name. He said, give Richard his marker. So I got $500. I started playing. I made $1,900 in about 20 minutes. That's how hot that table was, but I knew what I was doing too.
Right.
But yes. You remember, on a crap table, whatever, if you see the 2 stick men on each side, that whole table on each side is exactly the same. You only have to worry about this side. That side's the same thing, so it doesn't matter what side you go on. They work that side, and the other dealer, so it's 2 and position 2 and position 3 dealer, they work those sides. Position 1 is the stick man. So they work those sides. So don't be afraid of a crap table. It's a big old table. You only got to worry about one side. And yes, it is math, but the only thing I tell people, you don't have to know the math. If you learn the math, which I teach in the book, you will learn not to make bad bets. You cut down bad bets. That's the only thing. Now you can learn the game just by playing. If anybody ever wants to play craps, all you have to do is go to the table without reading any book. Bet all you remember, you bet 6 and 8. Those first 2 numbers, there's 6 numbers total on the board. You take 2 of them. Say the point is 9. You take 6 and 8 because the point's already 9. No matter where that puck is, that's always a pass line bet. So you go $10 on a pass line. You always take odds, no matter what. That's how you buck the house edge. You can go to my book and I teach you what the percentage of the house is. When you take odds, it knocks down the casino's edge, but it has nothing to do with you winning or losing. So 6 and 8, pass line, and odds. That's all you need to know in the beginning. And listen, and use. You can see in my book is press pull. You make your first. Say you bet $6 on a 8. You win 7. You get it. You keep it. Don't press it. You win in a 8 or 6 again. You keep it. Now you got that $12 back plus $2 profit. Now you're working on your pass line and your odds. Once you do that, you start to use money management and you get your money. You get all your money back first, your original investment back first before you do anything else. And you'll find out you will not be going to the ATM as much as everybody else is on the table. So, Brett, the other thing I was going to ask you, what was it on you said the numbers, the statistics on basketball. And why? That's what I always found it curious. On football, there's bets you can make, and basketball, there are different bets. Is because basketball, because it's who's going to shoot a three-pointer or who's going to do a layup. In football, you got the first punt, first touchdown.
Right.
What is the difference?
So basically, when you're talking about, if you're talking about situational, it's going to all come down to prop-based bets and, outcome type of base plays. And when you do that, it's going to really come down to your knowledge of the game, because there you can actually analyze, is Steph Curry going to do this tonight statistically? Is Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson or Patrick Mahomes going to do that tonight statistically at quarterback? Who are they playing defensively? How does that match up? Is it going to limit the offense? Is it an advantage to the offense? Will that affect the scoring? So you could break down those matchups on an individual basis or on a unit by unit basis, offense versus defense, however you like. It just depends on how well you know the game. That's when you kind of really can more so get away from the numbers and kind of look at the game. When you're betting the actual line, then you have to remember you're betting the number. So when you're betting those type of props like you mentioned, then you're more so betting the player. You're betting Steph Curry, you're betting LeBron James, Giannis Antetokounmpo, so on and so forth. But when you're betting a line, then you're betting more so how that is going to factor into the outcome, where everything else surrounding that then becomes supplemental, if you will. It's the icing, it's not the cake. So that's why it's really going to be dependent on whether or not you're betting the spread or you're just betting something else, in this case, a prop.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. The other thing on that, on the betting, like you're betting, like football, you bet on a touchdown or field goal.
Yep.
Basketball, it's who makes the first shot or who does, like, who's going to do a slam dunk, whatever. And what about, this is kind of odd, but I'm kind of curious if you, because I know you follow a lot about sports, how do you bet on tennis?
Tennis is ultimately going to be like how kind of you bet golf or fighting. You bet it as if it were an individual sport. So if you're betting boxing, MMA, golf, you're going to base the bet off of what you know about the individual. If it's golf, you're going to base it off how that particular golfer's style of play would play the course. If it's boxing, a big matchup like the one we have tonight, welterweight right here in town, Sean Porter and Terrence Crawford with the welterweight title of the world, you're going to handicap the two styles of those two fighters, how they fight, the technical differences, the stylistic differences, their background, their past opponent, the speed, the size, all those intangibles. You're going to judge it, or base your bet judged off the individual. Same thing with tennis. You're going to go off their history. You're going to go off that particular matchup, how they may play on clay versus how they may play on dirt, how this opponent plays against that opponent in the past. And with tennis, it's very top heavy, whether it be on the women's front or on the men's front. So you have these names that have become historical, even iconic figures. You can look at their past history and kind of use that as a point of comparison. So tennis is ultimately going to be bet the same way you would bet golf and fighting. The odds are going to be a little bit differently, like they are in everything. The way you see the numbers are all relative to the actual sport. That's always going to change. But your approach can very much be consistent with those type of sports, even with racing, with auto racing, because you know that individual. With basketball, with baseball, with hockey, with football, you're ultimately betting a team game. So even though you may bet a prop, again, like Steph Curry's total, three-pointers, how many touchdowns Patrick Mahomes is going to throw, it's going to be based off of what the team does. Or those individual sports, you know what they're going to be based off. They're going to be based off that person you're betting, because that only matters and nothing else. They're relying on themselves, and you have to rely on that as well.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I've always wondered, how does somebody bet when they made the first
yeah.
I don't even know what they call it.
It's ultimately, and when you go through through an open, a tournament, you're going to be betting like the matchup. So you may bet Djokovic at a certain price earlier in the open, and then later in the open you're not betting them because you don't like that value, but you may pick a different bet because you see value in it. You may pick like a future bet for you like Djokovic to win this open, but then you like Nadal to win another open or something like that, and you do that down the road. But then when they actually match up, you can make your own individual bet, given that you now know that. So that's the difference between, again, a future bet and just your current straight bet, because it's all based off of what your prediction long term is compared to what you know immediately based off your opposition.
Yeah, what I was trying to do there, I know Brett's good. He's really good. This guy's got a huge future. It's crazy how I know he's got a huge future. I threw some stuff in there, like tennis thing. I want to see if I can get him. This guy's good. This guy's good.
And I love it, too, because tennis is one sport that's actually not frequently bet because it's such a niche sport. But when you look at certain tournaments, certain events, certain opens, it racks up in popularity. You get the betting handle that week go through the roof of people who aren't even, regular tennis bettors or sports bettors. They may just know the name. They may know it from a mainstream popularity type of level, and they want to get on the action to join in on the fun. You have that a lot with fights when you have a big-time fight like a McGregor fight. You had it for years with a Floyd Mayweather fight, a big heavyweight fight now like a Tyson Fury fight. You're going to see that as well. So a lot of times these type of things give people opportunities, even if it is a niche sport, tennis, soccer, hockey. It gives you a chance to kind of get involved in the fun and realize there are ways to bet sports and profit off of sports betting aside from just traditional ATS betting, whether it be in a football game or a basketball game, which is kind of what people always think of.
Interesting. Aaron, we're going to run my commercial, the 360. Aaron, I know I keep repeating this, but I really want to focus because I spent 11 months shooting this, getting prepped and doing the casting. I had to do my own casting, found the locations, tried to hire some actors, and some just didn't work out. So I had to change a lot of things around, but I think I ended up shooting on 3 different cameras, which I should have just shot it on one. But Aaron here, I found him. He did a fantastic job. I mean, he went over it, and then I went over it, and he went over it, and I went over it, and then we agreed towards the end. I wish I had more footage. I think there's more footage somewhere, but I don't know who's got it. I think I know who has it, but I'm not going to say. But I know there was more footage on it. I think the guy who shot it kept some of the footage. So, but yeah, Aaron did a fantastic job here, and we are looking for funding for this project. If anybody's interested, you can call that number, and we can see where we can go from there. Okay, Aaron, go ahead. Okay, we're back here, Full Tilt Vegas, downtown, the heart of Las Vegas. Okay, I'm gonna go on my book. There's a page. It's page 73, and I did get this page in right when it was going to be published. I got 3 pages in, and this was one of them. It's called Money Management on the Board: Odds on 6 and 8. This is real interesting. 6 and 8 is real interesting. Paper that I wrote on to make sure I had this in the book. This is a very interesting paper. If anybody wants to know about board odds, because they're not the same as true odds, which is behind the pass line. Those are give you true odds. Board odds is the odds because you get to place those odds. The dice on the pass line are when a shooter throws a set of dice, that becomes the point. So you have an option of taking odds, which a house has to pay true odds. But on the board odds, you can pick any of the numbers, as many as you want, and make and it doesn't have like if it's 2 times odds, 3 times odds, 4 times the odds, you can put as much as you want on board odds. But on 6 and 8, they're interesting because the increment, if it's a $5 table, there's $6. If you put $6, it'll pay you 7. If you put $5, it'll pay you 5. So you can put $6. If you put a double increment, it would be $12. Now 12 pays 14. So, but the thing is, you don't have to put $12. You can put $10. So the dealer has to, what they have to do, they have to break it down. $10, they take $6 of the $10, and they would have to pay you 7 on that. And because you don't have the other $2 on that bet to make the increment bet, you only get paid $4. So you get a total of $11. So you can actually do this. And if that paper, the way I devised it, I'm showing you. You can bet if it's a $10 table, you can bet $10. And the dealer, if they ask you for the other $2, you don't have to give it to them. Just say, no, I want to bet $10. It pays 11. So when they give you 11, once you win that 2 times, now you have the $2 from your profit, not from your pocket. Because if 7 comes out, the person that put up 12 on the 8 and 12 on the 6, that's $4 more than you put up. Because you only put 20. They put 24. If 7 comes out, they're in a whole $4 more than you are. So you can do this, and you can do it on $15 table. You don't have to put 18. You can put 15. Wait till that comes up, the 2 times, and there's your $3 on each of those numbers. It comes from your profit, not from your pocket. And you notice the higher the denomination, like on if you get up to $30, you don't have to put 25 on a 6 and 8. $25 pays you 29 because the dealer has to break it down. 30 will pay you 35, but like I said, it's an extra $10. If 7 comes out, you lose $10, and you the person that put up 30, a total of 60, you only put up 50. So you can do that. It's a really interesting page. It's page 73. It's in my book, and it's board odds on 6A. Real interesting numbers. So you can go and do that. Okay, I want to ask Brett a question. And that's on. You told me before we came in here, we talked a little bit. You were very busy.
Yeah.
On college, watching college football and all what's going on in the statistics. Can you tell the audience here?
Yeah.
What your homework was today?
Absolutely. So basically, we do it every week in terms of like weekly picks and stuff like that. So from the sports betting atmosphere, I do that on a regular basis right here on Go Live Vegas every Saturday morning with my co-host Aaron Phillips on our weekly sports talk show on Sportsmanlike Conduct. We have a segment every week dedicated to picks where we tap into both the NFL and the college football slates of the week. So we dabble in both pools. All our picks are simply against the spread. No money line picks, no total plays, no props. It's all ATS, betting the line, and we do 3 a week, and we select again from both those pools. In terms of how I approach it, though, as I did today, and really just any week in terms of the analysis, whether I'm doing live commentary or just sitting on my couch on Twitter, it's all the same. I break down college football for what the teams actually are, given their location, given their region, given the recruits they have. NFL, if I were to tell anybody, Richard, the main difference in handicapping professional football and college football is that in the NFL, I'm trying to think of the right way to phrase this. I guess you could say in the NFL, it comes down to more so to game planning and strategy. In college, it's often straight up the superiority of coaching and talent. And that's why you see different lines. In the college, they're a lot wider, a lot bigger. Teams are going to be laying a lot more points, and teams may be comfortable picking a favorite laying that many points. At the same time, it's a great window for a cover if you're picking an underdog, like there were some opportunities today. You had some spots like Oregon, who's one of the best teams in the country. As we speak, they're struggling against Utah, but they were a dog on the road getting 3.5. So those are one of those games that's tricky, a tough opponent against with a good team on the road, getting points, tight spread. But often the NFL, they're always tight. In college, the windows are a little bit more, I guess you could say, widespread, simply because the gap in talent could be that much greater. And since the gap in talent is that much greater, you have to really study each program for what they are. If they're an SEC team, study them based off the SEC caliber of talent. Big Ten, a Big Ten caliber of talent. Certain teams in certain regions recruit a certain type of player. And if you watch college football long enough, you begin to notice how those type of players are molded into initially college players who will eventually become NFL prospects, and that all goes back to the coaching and the style that particular program runs. In the NFL, they're all pros. I don't care what anyone says. The gap between Team 1 and 32 isn't that big. The Lions may be 8-1 right now, or whatever their 9-1, or whatever their official mark is. At the same time, you look at the Lions compared to the Titans, the gap between those two teams right now is a lot shorter than it is between, let's say, Georgia and Rutgers or someone like that in college football. So in college football, since the gaps are so much wider, you have to approach the lines differently. And in football, I will always say this, you're always betting the number. You're not betting a team. But in college football, you could be a little bit more cognizant of the team, because that team, the style of play, the actual recruits they have, whether they be 4-star, 5-star, future NFL type of guys, if that head coach they have is a Nick Saban, Dabo Swinney type of coach who's really considered a master genius of, strategist of the sport, those aspects play really into your favor when betting college football. Where in the NFL, you could have a great coach like a Bill Belichick, you could have a great quarterback like a Patrick Mahomes or a Josh Allen or whatever, but at the same time, if the line isn't there, it's not going to be a good bet. In college football, you could sometimes make it a good bet because you know that Alabama matches up well against this particular SEC team. Ohio State matches up well against this particular Big Ten team. Oregon matches up well with this Pac-12 team, so on and so forth. So in college, I would recommend really study the identity, and that's why in college, when I break down these games, whether, again, I'm doing live analysis or just watching as a fan, following my bets, or just getting on social media and seeing what the general conversation is, I really kind of immerse myself and, I guess you could say, look at the entire horizon. Don't look at Rutgers trying to compare them to Clemson or Alabama or Oklahoma. Look at them like they're Rutgers. Look at West Virginia like they're West Virginia. Where in the NFL, you don't do that. That becomes secondary. Look at the line first. Don't get afraid because it's the Detroit Lions. If it's a good line, you have to consider it. Don't be overconfident because it's the Green Bay Packers. If it's a bad line, you're going to want to walk away. In college, you could kind of supersede that with the caliber of talent and the style that each conference kind of plays. And that's why college football, you really want to, look at every game, because there's a lot of them. The fact you have 120 teams in the FBS.
See, that's why this guy's good.
Takes one to know one, Richard. Takes one to know one. A true gambling expert to my left here. So I'm among smart company.
Thank you very much. I noticed a few of the past episodes I've done. I noticed, so I went back because I go back and see how many views, and I noticed I got some questions. I guess I got to keep up with that. There was people asking me about, I did do videos on horse racing. Mm-hmm. So you can go from 7 to 10. I did videos on horse racing, and I had, I think it's like, if I can still remember, it was 30 years experience, but I did start in 87, and I actually met Gary and some other guys there. They were all multimillionaires, and they took me under their wing. They used to call me the kid, and that was me and another guy. His name was Eric, like my son's name's Eric. His name is Eric, me and him. Eric came later, but I knew all those guys, and I learned a lot from them. Joe, and there was a guy named Fred. Mainly it was Gary. But, I do talk about horse racing. I have a vast knowledge of horse racing. People see horses running around the track. It's not what it's really about. It's the surface, the distance, the breeding. Yep. You got to look at the fractions, how fast your horse and the other horse and the next one, Tim, is running, where they're at when they hit the first fraction, second fractions. And that tells you a lot. If by the time they get to the 4 furlongs, you can tell if your horse is going to win or not, or where he's going to come in. But I do talk about horse racing and on those episodes 7 through 10. And yes, I did stay alive, you might say, from horse racing for 9 years. I did it for 9. That's all I did. 9 years. I used to wake up and go yell out, "Trevor Denman." He's one of the greatest announcers of all time in horse racing. I think it was George Flores was Hollywood. But if anybody's interested in learning about horse racing, start from 7, because I go from the beginning, reading the form, and you shouldn't read the form. And you can get the digest. It has a little more information, but it's more expensive. But the form is good enough. But you'll learn what you learn is the breeding is very important, especially from dirt to grass. Like I said in my segments, horses come from England, Great Britain, Ireland, Argentina. Those horses are all bred. They go back sometimes 400 years, and they're all grass bred. That's why they come to the United States. They give them, it's called Lasix, which is a medicine. They give them the first dose. It's not that powerful, and what happens is their lungs bleed. So when they're running, they bleed, and they breathe out through their nose, and they can't breathe, so they can't run like they're supposed to. Now, if they do come back bleeding after they give them a shot of Lasix, the second time they give them the full dose, and it doesn't hurt the horse. It just suppresses and tightens the walls in the lung cells, so they don't bleed. And a lot of horses, I'm telling you, if they get Lasix and blinkers, which is there's a quarter, a half, and a full blinkers, and that just makes the horse focus on running, and it doesn't look around because they shy off. So they get Lasix and blinkers, they get a double whammy. I've won a lot of bets, and horses are not favorites. They might be 3-1, 4-1, because they got blinkers and they got Lasix for the first time. And the other one is really important that I'm going to say now is guys don't like to hear this, but the horse has been gelded. And that horse, sometimes you got to bet. There's sometimes they're 30-1, 20-1, and a lot of times those horses, they take off and never look back, and you get a huge price. Just throw them in your pick threes, maybe an exactas or another time an exotic bet, because sometimes that horse will come in and it'd be a huge payday for you. So
and
you want to do that.
And in my experience, actually just working around odds makers, handicappers, and just in the sports book community, that often happens, and that's what you see when you're in the race book. Whether it be, it doesn't even have to be for a Triple Crown. It could just be a day at the book, if you're, a day at the track. That so often happens when it's not so much the horse that, like, you're not needing to pick a winner. You're picking a horse in that final crop, as you just said. And, of course, there's all kind of things, exactas, quinellas. You could go on and on about that. Horse racing is its own science. But there, if you could at least – it's essentially in horse racing, if you're, like, in the conversation with that one particular horse, then you could have a big payout because the value is there, and you don't have to necessarily hinder yourself on he has to win this race. But there's so many other factors. You pretty much alluded to damn near all of them right there. I mean, there's the maiden race aspect, because with other athletes and other sports, you have a window of time to watch their development and see how they grow. Horse racing, you have a very short window, and you often get just to see them in those Triple Crown races. You only see it once or twice for a lot of these horses, so that often makes a difference. If you're seeing them a second time around, sometimes that's helpful. Sometimes it's the other way around. Sometimes that hurts them. They're nowhere near the same horse they were a year ago when they were running those maiden races. So it's really that fine line, slippery slope type of thing, and that's why I'm very I defer a lot to horse racing experts. I know about it, but I'll never call myself one, because again, that's a science in on its own, simply based off of how the odds are structured and how you actually value off the odds. It's similar to sports betting, but the way you could profit is different, because again, you don't necessarily have to nail the winner of the race in every aspect to profit.
Yeah, even if you get a long shot, say he's 20-1, and you might bet him. You should, if you're gonna bet a long shot, say he's 20-1. Always take the flat win for that's the first thing you take, the flat win. I don't care if it's $2. It pays $2, $42. If you bet $20 or whatever on it to win, and then you take an exotic like an exacta. If he doesn't win, he comes in second. It's a big payday because you caught the long shot second. Don't have to be first.
Yep.
And a lot of these horses on the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness, and the Belmont, there's a lot of really good horses. The 3-year-olds are really good horses. You're never going to get those odds on those horses again, because that crop of that year, they come on to race that Triple Crown.
Yeah.
Those are very good. They come from all over the world. Those are really good horses. You're not going to get those odds on those horses when they branch off and start doing their own thing wherever they go, whatever town they're at. You're not going to get those odds. And I always noticed when me and Gary were betting, I remember Gary always brought $600. He had money, but he only brought $600. But on those days, he's telling Richard, I got my 6 here, I got 2,000 here. He's always bringing extra money because you might see something, and if you see something and you catch it,
fire.
I saw Gary. Oh my God! I went to the window one time. I can say this, I guess, but one time at Del Mar, I got invited to stay with him, and he had a hotel there. And he had his big old room. Said, Richard, come on down. I was going to go there Saturday. He was there Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and he was going to stay Sunday, but he decided not to. He had to go home. So I came Saturday, and when I got there, what was he telling me? Oh my God, Richard, you should have been here. I go, oh no, I don't want to hear this. He won, I think it was 14,000 Thursday, and then he won something like I think it was 11,000 Friday, and then when I was there with him, he collected another, I don't know what it was. Anyway, it came to 42 grand. But the way it's structured, there's no taxes. Like I said, if you bet a $2 on a horse's, say it's 5-1, that's $12. But if you that's $2. But if you bet 200,
bingo.
Now you're gonna make 1,200.
And it's the same way with betting on money line value in any other sport. We have a great example tonight with a fight. Sean Porter is a steep underdog against Terrence Crawford. You don't have to cough up that much to get a big profit, nor should you, because that's what value's all about. For the same reason, if you were to bet Terrence Crawford, who opened as a very steep, 7-1 type of favorite, it's really more, the fight's more of like a 2-1 type of matchup, but the odds themselves, what we see in the sports books and on all these mobile apps, it's a lot steeper than the actual matchup indicates. So if you were to feel confident and bet the champion and retain his title, that's fine, more power to you. He's favored for a reason, but you're not going to have as big of a payout, and that's how it should be. That's why people often, I don't think, are fully aware why it's called handicapping. It's all give and take, and that's why what you just said, it's all about profit. It's not exactly necessarily about picking a winner as much as it is picking the right. A winning bet doesn't have to be the winner of that competition that you're actually watching. And that's why prop bets, what we opened the show talking about, that's very important, because, you have so many different kind of prop bets to where you could bet a round prop in boxing or MMA, to where you say, I'm not betting the winner, I just think the fight's going to go longer than 3.5 rounds. You could bet, I think it's an MMA fight that's going to end with a submission victory in the second round, and that may have really good odds, to where maybe a knockout victory in the first or third round, those odds aren't as great given the type of matchup. In golf, you could bet who's going to finish in the top 10 or the top 5. Doesn't matter if they win, just in terms of that final leaderboard, be in the hunt. There's a lot of ways you could really set yourself up to win when you don't necessarily have to be on the same side of that winning team, that winning fighter, that winning golfer, etc.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, we don't have very much time. Was it 11 minutes, Aaron? 10 minutes? You can call and ask Brett any question about any sport. Try to put him on the spot. But
give me a sweat, which
yeah.
is what we all like in sports betting anyway, right?
Yeah. The other thing I want to say, I think is interesting. I know a lot of guys don't get up on Saturday at 8 o'clock. I was really interesting shows. These him and Aaron Phillips had on the line, and what they talk about, the total thing about what they do on those sports. I thought I said, isn't that kind of early to be doing that? It's going to be about 10 o'clock.
Right.
But they're getting ready because they know the college games are going to start.
Absolutely. And, there's lines that you could track all throughout the week. We talked about this when I was on a couple of weeks ago about that line shifting, seeing the fluctuation, opening opportunities for yourself, creating advantages and chances to really profit. And that's why line shopping's so important. You could go all around town. You could go, as we talked to earlier with our on the phone, we were able to you may be able to find a line somewhere, whether it be on your app without leaving your couch, or if you want to go to the counter in person, you're going to find an opportunity on Tuesday that won't be there in a few days, but come Thursday, Friday, you may find another opportunity because a line somewhere else has dropped down or gone up. So there's chance, when we talked about a form of hedging and middling, to where you may bet a line on one side of a game, on Tuesday that line shifts to where you want to profit on the other side. Come Friday, early Saturday morning before kickoff, you decide to make a last-minute wager on that as well. So again, don't think just because – then that's why with football, especially in basketball, when you're betting the number as opposed to simply just the teams and the outcome, don't think that just because that this team may not walk away, this team may not look dominant, this team may not, be the winning side in terms of what you see in that box score, I could still profit because of the way I strategize and because I was betting a number, not a game. That's what you ultimately have to do. The game is what surrounds the number. The number is always going to be the nucleus, especially with football and basketball.
Okay, that is really fascinating to me. I don't get into what Brett, all the analogy and all this stuff that he does. It's interesting because I know what I know, and I like what I'm doing on these games that I the statistics and ratios that I go over in blackjack, craps, roulette, even poker. You can go on episode 17. Rob Goldstein, he won some pretty good money this year. If anybody wants to know anything about poker, you can go on episode 17 and listen to him. And I do play poker, and I have won. I was in the money in 3 tournaments. I got invited to 5 here at the Rio. I was in the money in 3 of them. I think one was 2,800. I came in 16th place, and the other one was 875. I think I came in. I think it was 16th. So I can't remember the other one, but if you want to go on know anything about poker, we go over that in episode 6 too. I go over poker in that one, so I have a pretty good knowledge of a lot of these games. Sports betting, I did dabble in it, but horse racing, I just veer off, go back to the horses because I'm comfortable with it.
But philosophically, and I like how you make that connection because there are a lot of parallels. And we talked about it before with risk management, how you manage your profit, return on investment, how an ROI in sports betting is going to be very similar, philosophically speaking, to if you're doing something in the financial atmosphere or something on Wall Street related investment. I know that's a blanket term, but you get what I'm saying. If you're a big wig in that aspect, you understand those principles. You could understand those principles and apply them to sports betting, even without being a quote-unquote sports nerd or sports fanatic, and you could at least get the concepts because you know the aspects of managing money and managing risk and knowing that money may be lost here, but it could be gained somewhere else. And when it's consistently gained in other places, that's how you make profit, much like how you're alluding to with the knowing the odds, knowing the probability. It's the same way. If you know the key numbers when betting football, if you know the right type of pitching matchups and the right type of, I guess you could say, money line in terms of timing for baseball, if you know the right type of styles for fights or golfers to correlate with their money line, however you like to bet, all the principles ultimately still apply the same. The nitty-gritty differences come ultimately with how you're betting it. Again, then that be point spreads, totals, against the spread, or against the spread, propositions, totals, whatever have you. That all varies, but you could apply the principle anyway because it's all the same. It's about managing risk, and it's about maximizing profit. That's the case in anything when money's on the line.
Yeah, you can make even like Brett was saying too, is the favorite. Even if a favorite, the payout's not going to be that great.
Mm-hmm.
You can, if you want to take a chance, instead of betting $2, you can make 20. If you can bet 200, I have a friend back in California who bets $2,000 to win and $2,000 to place on a horse. And I saw him walk up before 1997. Now that you have to pay taxes on I think it was now it's $5,000. He walked out with $37,000 for $4,000. But a lot of people don't make these kind of bets. But you can make these bets, and exotic bets or prop bets. But you really need to do your homework and learn like I have. I've learned all the racial percentages and the statistics. Like Brett, he does the same thing. He on sports betting, he dabbles into everything. Like we were talking about last week, and I think I did post that picture of 2 for the money.
Yep.
And I was cracking up because I was like, that guy, that's Brett there, and the Al Pacino's me.
If I could be McConaughey, I'm happy, right? I'm winning, right?
Yeah. Did you see that movie again?
Yeah, I haven't watched it recently, but it actually was on TV not too long ago. It really is a great movie. And I remember we were thinking last week the name slipped me, but I remember then you posted the picture. I'm all like, man, I remember first watching this too, and even watching Casino, watching certain and growing up in Vegas, even before you know what these games are, it has a lot of just you go a long way with being able to familiarize with them and resonate with them. They're recognizable. So even though I didn't know for the longest time what craps was all about, what playing 21 was all about, poker, even Keno, everything in between, roulette, just walking around, I could at least point and say, that's roulette. That's craps. Where a lot of, you take someone from Wisconsin who's never been to Vegas, they're not going to know what the hell that is. So one thing I am very appreciative of is just being around Vegas, coming from a family of East Coasters who grew up or who frequently came out to Vegas in the 60s and 70s and 80s when things were much different, and being able to just kind of see the evolution and all the different casino properties, both on strip and off strip. At least I knew what these games are, so it's a little bit easier. It's just like knowing what the sports books were and what odds were and lines and point spreads. It's a little bit easier to kind of appreciate and resonate with those type of things. But I think once you get to that, then it's important to pick up books like you have, watch shows like Full Tilt, follow the experts like yourself who have the actual experience, because now that you have that familiarity, then you could go and get insights from professionals like you.
Yeah, okay, you've lived here all your life?
Yeah, pretty much over the 4 years I went to school out in Iowa, played college ball at a small school out in eastern Iowa, and then pretty much came back upon graduation and began working in the local media, and I've been here ever since. I'm not shackled to Vegas by any stretch, but at the same time, it's booming. It's perfect for sports. It's always been perfect for sports betting, and as the entertainment capital of the world, it's only going to continue to grow. So I have no strong desire to leave anyway. So, it's one of those things where it's kind of cool to be here as the city continues to just blow up and evolve into the next step, the next phase, if you will.
I talked to, when I actually lived here for 5 years, I was in construction here 4 years, and I dealed 1 year at the MGM Corporation. I had to go back to California because of my back, but I also dealed there for 16 years.
Right.
I was going to ask you, because I did ask a lot of people when I was living here. Some people, they lived here all their life, and they never put one nickel in a slot machine.
Yeah.
Have you? It's kind of interesting because you don't meet too many people that because they get the bug and they do gamble.
Yeah.
So are you all right with not going to the slot machine or a crap table roulette or?
Oh, absolutely. And you know what it is? It's ultimately going to be like anything else. It's going to be like how you handle drinking. It's going to be like how you handle eating. It's just ultimately going to be one of those things. Sir, and if you do have an issue with it, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just some people handle it differently, and it's up to you to address that and make your personal choice of how you want to address that. So that's why I'm not one of pointing out fingers saying he's a degenerate, she's a degenerate, they have a problem, because only they could really recognize that and kind of state that. But at the same time, for me, it's never been an issue because I don't have that bug. It's the same way with betting sports. I'm the type of guy where I could pick any game, I could give an opinion on any game, gun to my head. If I had to give you a pick, I will, but that doesn't mean I need to walk up and put my money on it. If I recommend a pick against the spread, giving points, laying points, whatever, that most of the time I like to put my money where my mouth is if I'm going on the record with any type of broadcast or written pick, because it's published and put out there. I like to put my money where my mouth is. But that doesn't mean if you're asking me for my opinion on the game and I give you my opinion, that doesn't mean I'm going to bet it. I means if you want to bet it, more power to you, have at it, and I think it would be a good bet for you. I think you could trust me in that, for my opinion, to be responsible for your money. That doesn't mean I'm always going to bet it. That's what I'm saying. And that's the number one thing I tell people when they're entering sports betting. If they are a novice, don't feel you have to bet everything. Every day there's going to be stuff to bet. It's like drinking alcohol for the first time. It's not going anywhere. There's going to be plenty of beer. There's going to be plenty of liquor. There's going to be plenty of wine. You're going to have chances to drink it all throughout your life. You're going to have chances to bet sports all throughout your life. So don't overdo it just to get that thrill, because you do catch the bug. Just let it. And I know it's hard. It's easier said than done for some people. But for me, that's the approach I take. Just think, sure, I could have an opinion, but do I really want to bet it? And if I do, good. That means I really feel strongly about it. But go through that, process of elimination, that mental elimination, if you will, and whittle down your chances, or not your chances, your choices, and decide, is this really worth firing a bet on? And it becomes a little easier once you get to that point, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I tell people, don't let Vegas make you. You make Vegas.
Right, exactly. Don't be another product of the system. Be an exception of that, right? Be the exception, not the rule. At the end of the day, the house always wins. That's the important thing about recognizing. When you recognize that the house always wins, then you will know the spots when they don't win. That could be when you win. You can't come in to this to thinking I'm going to win all the time. No, you have to come into it with the approach saying I'm going to take my losses. There's going to be some times I get knocked on my you-know-what. I'm going to be on the ropes. But if I know how to counterpunch the right way, I could profit. And that one little opportunity for profit means I'm walking back home with money in my pocket or money in my account on my mobile app.
Yeah, I tell the people the slot machines ain't going nowhere.
No, and they're at every gas station. You could go get a Slurpee and then throw in some video poker.
Okay, we're going to say goodbye here from Full Tilt Vegas. Brett, you want to say goodbye?
Absolutely, Richard. Thank you so much for having me. I'd love to hop on any other time. Follow all my content at Brett Lawson LV at Twitter. for weekly analysis, picks, commentary, and just general discussion. And again, right here on Go Live Vegas, Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. Pacific Time, myself, Aaron Phillips, for Unsportsmanlike Conduct, everything in sports and pop culture on a weekly basis.
Okay, I want to thank Aaron here. Fabulous. And we're going to see you guys next Saturday. Thank you from Full